Welcome to Word of the Week. My hope is that for those of us involved in different ways in the ministry of U-Turn, helping people find pathways out of homelessness, these reflections would inspire and encourage us as God includes us and uses us to be part of that prayer that we so often pray. May your kingdom come on earth as it is in heaven. So we're reflecting on the servant songs in the book of the prophet Isaiah. The servant of the Lord that Isaiah speaks of has been interpreted by Christians as a prophetic foreshadowing of the life, mission, suffering, and triumph of Jesus. And so for us as followers of Jesus, they set an example for us to follow. And today we're looking at the second of these servant songs that comes in chapter 49. And here the servant of the Lord speaks in the first person. And it starts with affirmation of the servant's call and identity. Verse 1. Listen to me, you islands. Hear this, you distant nations. Before I was born, the Lord called me. From my mother's womb, he has spoken my name. What's the story behind your name? What does it mean? Do you know? Why did your parents choose it? It wasn't the case when my children were born, but with medical advances today, parents can know the gender of their child before it's born, and so they can, and some do, name their children before they're born. But be that as it may, for us as servants of the Lord, know this: the Lord knew us, knew you, and spoke your name before you were born. The Lord called you and named you, and the Lord gave you an identity. We read this in verse 3, Isaiah 49 verse 3. He said to me, you are my servant. Now that's a high calling, isn't it? It speaks of being included in the purposes of God. So a call and an identity, called before we were born, given a name and an identity as servants of the Lord. And then second, we read how the Lord fashions and shapes his servants. This work of forming and shaping us is not restricted to just when we're in utero. The Lord's work of fashioning and shaping us and building things into us has never stopped. It's still happening today. God has a plan and a purpose for his servants, for you and for me. And his work of shaping and forming us continues. Look at verse 2. He made my mouth like a sharpened sword. In the shadow of his hand he hid me. He made me into a polished arrow and concealed me in his quiver. Two images are used here, a sharpened sword and a polished arrow, and both need a skilled craftsman to work on them. The sword needs to be worked on to make it sharp and fit for purpose. If you think of it, that's quite a tough process for the sword. Heat would be generated as it's grinded on the anvil's hard, rough surface. But that's the only way to wear off those jagged chinks so that the sword will have a sharp edge and be restored to its intended use. And the arrow, it would have started off as a branch on a tree. But an arrow attached to a tree would never work. That branch has to be detached from the tree. And then it would need to be cut down to the right size, and all the little bits sticking out would need to be removed, and it would need to be polished smooth so that it could fly straight at the archer's intended target and not veer off course. The Lord's work of fashioning and shaping his servants continues. And there'll be some tough times. There'll be some grinding, some rubbing up against some hard things. There'll be some smoothing, some polishing. But all of them will be used by our skilled craftsmen to shape and form us. Like the arrow, there will be things that we need to leave behind, things that have been dear to us, that have held us and made us what we are. There'll be knobbly bits that will need to be removed, and there'll be smoothing and polishing. It's not a walk in the park, but the Lord is fashioning and shaping and forming us for a purpose. There's a glorious end in mind and a specific and special role for each one of us. Can you look back at the journey the Lord has taken you on thus far? Can you see how He has used tough and uncomfortable times when you were up against some hard, grinding things, times when you had to let go of things, times when you had some, knobbly bits knocked off, all in order to shape and equip you uniquely for the task that He has called you to today. That's what the Lord does to equip His servants. And then thirdly, in verse 2, note this: He made my mouth like a sharpened sword. In the shadow of His hand He hid me. He made me into a polished arrow and concealed me in His quiver. Two images that speak of deep connection, protection, and care. In the shadow of His hand. The image is of covering and protection. His hand covers the handle of the sword. It's hidden from view. The sharpened sword is held in His hand. The Lord's hand grasps you firmly. His hand covers you and protects you. The polished arrow is concealed in His quiver. The archer would always have his quiver strapped to his body. You'd never leave it, tossed under a bush. It will always be with him, close to him. That's where His polished arrows are placed. Reflect then on the images that we have explored in these few verses. The Lord knew you before you were born. Your birth's no accident. You've been known, named from before you were born. And the Lord is continuing to shape and fashion you for a unique task as His servant, as He includes you in His plans, a fashioning and a shaping that is not and will not always be pleasant, but He's using it to equip you for a task in God's economy. Nothing that has happened to you is wasted. And then the Lord's hand holds and covers you, keeps you safe, protects you, and you are strapped to Him. You are held close to His heart always. This is how the Lord cares for His servants. Be encouraged, and God bless you as you go into the rest of this week.